D21 Nissan D21. It's either part 2.5. I'm going to call this part 2.5 or 3. All right, so that's a full floating caliper. That way the piston can come out, hit the brake pad, and then it'll push on the other side, and that's how the caliper moves back and forth, like so. There's the brake line. I forgot that since these are aftermarket and they're beefy, whenever you push them through, the little clip's not going to grab them. That's fine. Because really, honestly, that's a chassis tab with a hole. So that brake line's not going to go anywhere. So it'll be just like that. Okay. So I looked at the other brake hose end, and it's a little bit higher. That's where that clip goes through and keeps it in there. But honestly, guys, anybody who does aftermarket brakes or brake lines, they usually don't use that clip unless they modify it in some form or way. But having a hole and a part of the chassis right there that can hold the hard brake line that goes up to the brake master cylinder, and keeps the line in place. So that way when I turn left or right, I have clearance, the wheel won't hit the brake line. And also, if I ever need to make an adjustment, I can always just push on that like so and bend it a little bit if I need to, you know, because it's going to have to brake in on steering left and right. But, you know, the suspension is all the way down, so it's still going to go up some. So once I get under there and I bleed the brakes, and I'll see what it looks like. Plus, I'm going to crawl under the truck here and show you what the other side looks like and the underside of this truck looks like. Okay, give me a second. And this will wrap up this brake caliper swap, and that way I can get to the other side and then bleed my brakes and then enjoy the rest of my day. All right, under the truck, got your sway bar, hard points, Brake Tech. That's the name of these brake fucking lines. They're by Brake Tech. I need to fix that. So far everything is under here. Like I said, I just did the oil change not too long ago. This is the driveway where it all started. Where I started as a teenager. All my projects, the Toyota mini trucks, all my mini truck club members, before we did the airbags, and when I was out here having trucks come in and I was cranking all their torsion bars down, putting lowering blocks in the back, or yanking out the middle leaf and doing the mono overload, the mono with the overload, cutting out bump stops to get the mini bounce. You name it, guys, it ain't nothing new. This driveway used to be nice and flat. It wasn't all cracked. I've rebuilt two high performance Toyota 22R motors here, and then the one that I did when I did all full custom with the side drafts. Had my girlfriend's Toyota here. I put a whole motor that I had the pistons rehoned and a few millimeters overbore, ARP head studs, Weber side drafts, you name it, cam. I mean, this is where I used to fix cars, wreck cars for side money. I didn't do auto body and paint. I remember, you know, but I did everything. Motor, my R1, my other bikes used to be parked on the side over there. I mean, no leaks, no rear main seal leaks. Bottom of my truck is dirty. Obviously, I don't get under here and clean it. No catalytic converter, straight pipe to the Flowmaster and the exhaust on the way out. I think it looks pretty dope. I mean, you really want to learn about your vehicle, guys. I'd say jack up your vehicle and spend a day underneath it with a buddy and just gawk and awe at everything. Notice how that brake line comes in even with 18 by 9.5 wide tires, and it still clears it. And these are positive 18 offset. So they have some dish, but most of the rim sticks out on the inside. So yeah, man, I mean, you want to make sure you clear your brake lines. So I got them steered all the way to the right. This is what it looks like completely steered out. And then I'm going to steer it back in. I got the bolts nice and tight. I used some brake cleaner. Cleaned all the brake fluid off the rotor because you don't want that to burn up. So even though this is a factory rotor, I don't see no cut lines in it, no cracks, no big lip. It's never been turned. So I'll just save those on the side, even though I'll put in my aftermarket units. But I can't wait to do that. But at least I already got brake lines, calipers in, the system bled. So the next job will be just to do my rotors and change my shocks. But you know what? You can actually change a fucking shock without even taking off your wheel. If you're that good, or you just want to take off your wheel and jack it up in a parking lot, I can do that at the apartments. You know, just jack it up, undo the top bolt, take out the bottom, slap in the shocks, aftermarket shocks, air jacker shocks. You know, guys that you want to start getting the beginning scene of lowering your truck with adjustability, you can take off your torsion bars and I put some adjustable air shocks in the front, or you can get some coil. Now when I was talking about doing the sport coilovers, basically it's a billet aluminum shock, right? And it bolts in factory style. It has a spring, a 600-pound spring. It has a collet and adjustable where you can adjust the preload, and it has adjustable damping and rebound. So damping is when the wheel goes up, rebound is how hard it kicks back down. So you can really tune your suspension. And that would be good for like track, circle track, doing a track day on the twisties, really throwing it in the corners nice and hard, left to right, where the springs hold the weight, and the shocks, you can dial them in for like if it's a bumpy track or everyday driving, sport driving, or if you're on a smooth track, you can adjust your shocks for better. You can adjust the damping and rebound for like a smooth track. In other words, not a lot of going up and down, but just, you know, slow rises up and down, like crests in the track. I like sport tuning, and I like aftermarket adjustable shocks because on motorcycles, that's what you get in the rear. You get a adjustable rear, and you can really go crazy on it and really affect how the torque and the power comes down to the road. Or if you're in the front, like on a vehicle, like on a little mini truck, you have multi-wishbone suspension in the front because you have the left and front arm, where the rear is a solid fixed axle. So it's only get to sporty as it can get in the rear by taking out the middle spring and just leaving the mod on the overload, because therefore you're going to drop the truck at least 3 inches without using blocks. You can use the factory hardware, the grade 9, you know, factory hardware that Nissan uses. It's good shit, and it'll give you a tighter ride. And just depending on the kind of shocks you use in the rear, how it takes the hit. And I sport drive the shit out of this. I don't need it to be leaning in the corners. So, since I don't have sway bars, when you do a monoload and an overload, the little short fat one, just like that, it has suspension, but it stiffens it up from side to side. So the truck's never really going to roll. It's not going to lean too much in the back. And trust me, I push it to the limits where it scares the fuck out of myself sometimes and the other little compact Euro cars that I take on the high-speed twisties on the highways. I don't recommend doing it unless you have experience. It's just once in a while I get into it because some motherfucker wants to see if a little mini truck that looks like it can throw down actually throws down, and then when it does, they're like, holy shit. But you see, Everything is stock. Shocks, torsion bars. You know, it's just how you set it up, guys. Use what you got. Learn how to tune and adjust what you got until you start doing your aftermarket add-ons. One of the things my road race instructor and best friend, when I started racing motorcycles on the track doing knee drag and shit, he was like, why are you going to start putting all kinds of shit on your bike? Your bike's already designed for this shit. Learn how to extract the most out of your bike with aftermarket tires, because stock tires just weren't good at the time. You know, some aftermarket DOT race tires. And learn how the chassis and the suspension feels. Learn how to get loose. Learn how to get tight. Learn how to square off the corners, the apexes. And then when you start making mistakes, you'll start to learn where you need to make adjustments in the chassis, the foot pegs, just like in a car. You know, if it's too loose in the rear, stiffen it up. If it wallows too much, tighter springs. If it's moving around too much and the springs are good, adjust and damping and the rebound. All of these things play a big role in how it's going to affect its performance if you're pushing it. Now, if you're just a cruiser every day, daily, don't worry about it. What you got on there is good enough. I mean, with mild sport capable handling. But if you're gonna go take it on the track, yeah, I suggest really learning your shit and start tuning it accordingly. All right, guys, I'm gonna put the wheel on, bleed the brakes, get to the other side, and call this a wrap. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope it helped you out with the calipers, how to put them on, why they're called full floating, you know, why they're called that, and all the little parts and components. It's very important to keep up with your shit. Last thing you want to do is crash your beloved little mini truck that gets you, you know, your girlfriends and rides with your friends and to work and back and shit. You know, last thing you want to do is smash it up for no good reason, right? All right, guys, before I fall asleep under this damn thing, because this is so nice outside. Peace.